So, Shonen has this issue where there aren't that many good female characters, and that is understandable, considering the demographic of the stories. However, today I want to highlight and talk about the rare great female characters in shonen anime, and talk about why I love them and what makes them so good. Some of my picks are going to be surprising, and to keep things interesting, I'll only do one character from a specific series because some series have multiple greats and that would take up this list, but I will still talk about them a little later on, but anyway, let's get into this. So, in the number 5 spot, this is going to be a pick that most of you might not even know about, because the show isn't that popular. But I'm going with Amari from the anime Welcome to the Demon School Iruma-kun. Unlike some of the other female characters in this anime, she isn't annoying or cringe, she's actually really funny. Plus, she also is quite strong. She is always a big help during the final conflict of every season, her interactions with Iruma are always great. It makes me laugh literally every single time. The reason why her character works so well is because she is designed and for the most part acts like a strong-willed woman who don't need no man. And when it comes to Irma, she just becomes an ordinary teenage girl in love, and it works so well. She's actually kind of badass though. I already mentioned that she is pretty strong, but really, when you compare her strength to her peers, she really is a step above all of them. She has this magical strength alongside her physical strength that just lets her dominate opponents when she needs to. Amari is also very diligent. She takes her work as a student council president very seriously and makes sure to get everything she needs done, and also makes sure that everybody in the school is acting the way they should be. Amari is a great character in a show that already has a lot of really great characters in it. So this next one may not be that much of a surprise for people, but Emma from the Promised Neverland is a really good character. I mean, obviously, she's the main character in the show, but it is still really cool to see a female character in a shonen not be this helpless girl and someone who can actually handle themselves. Emma is extremely smart and uses those smarts to try and help those she cares about and to escape the terrible circumstances to survive. She's also extremely athletic. She isn't just this weak little girl who only has one thing going for her. She is very well versed in survival skills, has both intelligence and strength, and is also just a really caring person. Her one issue throughout the series is her overly emotional state and her lack of confidence. She often lets her emotions get the best of her, and that can sometimes cause problems for when they are in bad situations, but that is where her development comes in. Emma starts to learn that she's a good leader and that she can do anything if she puts her mind to it. And once she has grown into the role of leader, we start to see her plans and everything else really come into fruition quickly. Emma is such a great character because she isn't a one-note female character that has nothing going for her. She's a very complex character that has her own issues she deals with throughout the story. She grows and changes with time and eventually learns to be the person she needs to be in order to survive. Her story and growth is incredible, and I love to see more female characters like her in a story like this. It sucks that the Promised Neverland anime sucks though, so you don't really get to experience much of what makes your character so good. But if you want to, then I recommend the manga because the manga is incredible. But let's move on to the next entry on this list for the female characters. The next on this list is not so surprising if you really look at a list of female shonen characters and also learn how much I love this show. But the next one up is Nami from One Piece. She's a great character alongside Robin as well, but I like Nami more so she placed instead of Robin, but I'll talk about Robin a little bit later. But Nami is great. Her tragic backstory doesn't hold her back from being herself and being who she wants to be. Nami isn't some damsel in distress that always needs help. Like, sure, she is one of the weaker Straw Hats, but she can handle herself and often gets into some pretty insane fights herself. But she has a lot of faith in her friends, and although she is often scared of a lot of the enemies that they face, when push comes to shove, she will fight to her heart's content. Nami is very smart. You can argue that the story of One Piece as we know it would never have happened without Nami, as she navigates the crew to each and every island. Without her, Luffy and Zoro never would have left the East Blue, which means we never would have been able to get to the story that we have. It is really cool that we have a female character who is both really smart and really strong as well. She has moments where she is scared, but she also steps up when she needs to. Nami is also kind of like a big sister type of character to a lot of the younger characters in One Piece. She has this way of connecting with them and making sure they're okay, and that just comes from her background. Nami always tries to be this very kind and nurturing to these younger kids, as that is also something that she was deprived of in her life. Nami is a great character with so many different facets to her character that makes her really enjoyable. So next up, we have a character that at first I didn't really like because of her personality, but as the story went on, her development got me to really love her character so much, and I am talking about Noelle from Black Clover. I'm not usually a fan of tsundere characters. They're okay sometimes, but they can be really annoying as well. But anyway, that was what initially turned me off on her character because I was like, oh great, here we go again. But once we started really getting into the story and we started to learn her struggles, her backstory, and everything that led up to her joining the Black Bulls, she has really had a tough life for someone who was supposed to be a noble. Her family all hated her, she struggled to control her magic, and she was constantly bullied. She felt like she didn't have anywhere to belong until she joined the Black Bulls, which was just a big group of misfits. She fit right in with everyone else, and she finally felt like she had a place to belong. She then starts to open up more. She starts to confront her family, learns to control her magic better, and she starts to overcome a lot of the trauma that she had. Noelle was a very strong character. She has had so many struggles, but she never gave up. She always kept moving forward even when she was at her lowest. She kept practicing her magic, trying anything she could to control it. She struggled so much with her family too. But Asta was able to help her come out of her shell and made her a really brave woman who can do anything she puts her mind to. Now, I want to talk about some of the characters that I didn't talk about because they either repeat from the same series or just I don't think they're as good as some of the others. So firstly, I want to talk about Robin from One Piece. She's a great character, and the only reason why she isn't on this list is because I like Nami slightly more. But her character is incredible and is another great example of a very intelligent and strong woman, but she is also really vulnerable in a lot of ways that makes her character even better in my opinion. Frieren is another incredible female character, and the only reason she isn't on here yet is because we're still early on in her series and we haven't really seen her development much yet, but she is such a great character, and so is Fern. Both of them are great and are such a great vibe. I also want to bring up Bulma from Dragon Ball. She is the OG of female characters who can handle themselves. She is great. What more needs to be said? Alright, let's go into the final character on this list because I'm sure you will be surprised. Alright, the final character on this list is Urza Scarlet from Fairy Tail. Now, I'm sure that is a surprise to pretty much everybody watching this video, but let me cook and I'll tell you exactly why she is one of my favorite female characters, period. Firstly, unlike most of the other women in Fairy Tail, she doesn't have that many edgy moments. She has some, but just not as many. This is actually entwined with her character though. A big part of her character growth has to do with the armor she wears. The armor we see her wear on a normal basis is used to shield her heart. She is trying to block off all the bad things that have happened to her. When we first are introduced to Urza in the show, we see her as the strong-willed, stickler for the rules type of woman. This is before we learn anything about her past, so at the moment all we see her as is some kind of bitch. But as time goes on, we learn all about her messed up past and what drove her to be who she is. She is so strong-willed, not because she feels like she is actually strong, but because she feels like she has to be for her friends and family. Someone has to be there to protect them, and Urza will be that person. She is on multiple occasions early on in the series talking about sacrificing herself to protect her friends. She thinks this is best because she feels like everybody's life will move on without her and they wouldn't be sad. But that isn't true. If you know anything about Fairy Tail, then you know just how much the guild feels like one giant family. And I don't know about you, but I would be devastated to lose a family member. But Urza doesn't really see that early on. She is still depressed and really doesn't know how to truly show love. Because every time she has had somebody, she has lost them. Urza puts on this fake persona of being strong a lot throughout the run of the anime. Obviously, she is actually very strong, but this persona is something she puts on to hide her true feelings. I remember the first time I watched the Tower of Heaven arc of the series. This was the moment I knew Urza was going to be my favorite character in the series. For the first time, we saw her be vulnerable. For the first time, we saw this strong-willed woman who has never previously backed down, tremble, and not know what to do. This arc solidified for me that she is the best character in Fairy Tail, and it was her even further growth throughout the run of the anime that kept that going for me. She ends up becoming very important to Wendy, who shares a very similar story to Urza, and she even learns to show mercy and restraint when necessary. We still see the strong-willed, stoic, rule-following Urza throughout the entire show, but as more time goes on, we also get to see the fun-loving, bad-at-acting, embarrassing Urza, who is madly in love with her childhood friend. All of these traits make her a really dynamic and great character that honestly really shows you all the positive aspects of Fairy Tail. I apologize for how long that section was in comparison to the rest, but I really love Urza Scarlet as a character, and I finally wanted to get an excuse to talk about her character. But all the female characters in this video are great. There are more that I never even brought up, but it is still a rarity to find great female characters in shonen anime, especially if you are looking at some of the more mediocre shows. But anyway, that was the video. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton. And if you do decide to join the community, then I guess I'll see you next week with another video. Bye!